Hi, and thanks for watching. This is Todd Baginski, and today I have a video for you about how to use Azure Blob Storage inside of a PowerApp. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can upload images via a PowerApp to Azure Blob Storage. I'm also going to show you how you can display them, and I'm also going to show you how you can display PDFs stored in Azure Blob Storage within a PowerApp as well. Alright, so let's get started. The first thing I'd like to show you is here I am in the Microsoft Azure Portal. What you're looking at here is my resource group that I'm using for this demonstration. It has one item in it, a storage account. If I click on the storage account, we can see the details of that storage account, and then we can dig into the blobs in Blobs Storage. Notice in my Blobs Storage here, I have two different containers, one for images and one for PDFs. If I look inside of the images container, I can see there's no blobs in it. And if I look in the PDF container, you can see I already have one example PDF inside of the container. Returning back to the actual blob storage account, the storage account itself here, we can see that I have different access keys right here that I use to authenticate to it, as well as the storage account name right here. These two pieces of information are going to be needed for us to connect our PowerApp to the storage account. So that's the first thing you'll need to do to get this integration going. Let's see how that's done now. To demonstrate this concept, I've created a PowerApp called Azure Storage right here. I'm going to open it up now and show you how we implement the integration between Azure Blob Storage and a PowerApp. The first thing to point out is the data connection to the Azure Blob Storage. We can see that by going to View, Data Sources, and here's my Azure Blob Storage account connection. I've already configured this connection to connect to the storage account you saw in the first part of the video. To add your own connection to Azure Blob Storage, you go up to Add Data Source, and then you'll scroll down after you click New Connection to Azure Blob Storage. Select it just like that. Here you enter the account name and the storage account access key that you saw back in the Azure Portal. So I'm going to take the app for a little spin now and bounce back and forth between edit mode and actually running the application to explain how it works and show you how you can implement this yourselves. The full source code in this PowerApp is also posted on my blog, so you can download it. And all you have to do is recreate the data source connection to the Azure Blob Storage. To do that, the only thing you would need to do is come inside the app I've built, pick Remove on the connection, and then add your own in with the storage account name and the storage account key. And then it'll be up and running. So I'm going to click the Preview button now and actually load up my app. The first thing that you'll notice is I have this list of containers inside of a gallery here. You can see I've displayed both the display name for the container as well as the ID here. When I select one of the containers, I have the images one selected. We can see there's no blobs in it, but I do have the option to add a picture if I use this picture control that came with PowerApps. For the PDFs, when I click it, it will display the PDFs that have been uploaded to the storage account, and then use the PDF viewer control here to display that PDF inline inside of my PowerApp. So let's take a look at the PDFs portion first and how we loaded those different items into it and displayed them. If I put the PowerApp back into edit mode here, we can start inspecting the different pieces of the puzzle. So it all started up here with this containers gallery. You can see I have a group for container gallery group. It contains my refresh button up here in the corner, the header for my gallery, as well as the gallery itself. We can see here that the items collection bound to this gallery is named root folders. Root folders is actually created inside of the onVisible function inside of my PowerApp. Here you can see I use the clear collect function to create that collection named root folders, and here I'm calling out to the Azure Blob Storage connector. If we go back to the data sources, we can see the name here, Azure Blob Storage, is the exact same name I used to invoke it here. That's always true in PowerApps. Whatever name you see in the data table is how you access it programmatically. I invoke the list root folder v2 function and pull its value. That is going to get me the folders or the containers within that storage account. Once I have them back, then, as I mentioned before, they are set to the items property, which is the collection of items I wish to display inside of that container. Inside of my gallery here, I can look at the layout and see the display name is what I'm going to spit out here is the text display name : space and then this item's display name property. I do the same thing down here to show the ID. If we look at the collection of root folders here inside of the PowerApp, here I can see all the information that is returned from the connector when I make that call to tell me about the root folders. When I select a folder, as you noticed, it changes the information in the Blobs Gallery on the right. So how do I do that? Inside of my gallery, in the onSelect statement, I'm going to create another collection. So whenever I click on one of these containers in this gallery, this code will execute. I'm creating a collection named Blobs, and again I'm using the Azure Blob Storage connector. This time I use the list folder v2 function, and I pass it in the ID of the currently selected container in the containers gallery. I also pass in an optional parameter called useFlatListing and set it equal to true. That makes sure that I get all the items back and they're not nested in a hierarchical fashion in the data that is returned. This Blobs collection then is what I use inside of the Blobs Gallery here. You can see the items collection is called Blobs. If I look at the data for this particular collection, here we can see there's one item inside of that gallery, and that's all the data that the connector returns me about that particular call that I made and listing all the blobs in that folder. So that's how I have a nice drill down now from a container to show me the contents of it. If I look more closely at the gallery itself, you can see I've taken the same approach here to omit several things, including the display name, ID. I have an image in here as well. And notice on the image, I'm again using the connector, Azure Blob Storage.get file content, and pass in the ID of the file itself. This returns me the information I need to bind to my image control so that I can display it inside of the PowerApp. I'm also returning the media type, the path, and the size, as you can see here. Just some useful metadata to be able to see as we talk through this process. So I mentioned before in my blob gallery, now that I click on the control itself for Blobs Gallery image, you can see there's actually an image control here. This one is going to go get the file content for the currently selected item in the gallery by using its ID. Notice nothing displays when we try to put the PDF and display it within this control. However, it worked just fine when we used the PDF viewer. I'd like to point out also how I'm controlling the visibility of that particular image control. If I mouse over the visible property and click it, you can see I have a little formula that I created. If this item's media type contains image, then I'm going to set this control to be visible. Otherwise, I'm going to set it to false. Notice as we look at the media type for a PDF file here, the word image does not appear anywhere inside of it. When we start looking at the images part of this video, you will see that the media type does include image, and therefore the control will be rendered so that you can see the image in that gallery. Another thing I'd like to show you how I implemented was my refresh button right here. You can see anytime it's clicked, I'm recreating the Blobs collection by making that same call to the Azure Blob Storage connector, and I'm passing in the ID of the currently selected item inside of the containers gallery over here. This is the exact same code we saw that runs whenever you select one of the containers inside of the containers gallery. So I'd like to show you actually how we can implement that now, and I'm going to go to Azure and upload another PDF and then come back here and click the refresh button to see it appear in my list. Now I'm back in the Azure Portal inside of my PDFs container. I'll click the upload button to put a new file inside of it and upload another PDF. The upload goes very quickly and it's already finished. Now I can go back to the PowerApp and click the refresh button to see it appear in my gallery. Back in preview mode in my PowerApp, I can now click the refresh button to watch the other PDF appear in the list. I can now bounce back and forth between the two by clicking one, then the other, to see the PDFs with the different content in them displayed inside of the PowerApp. You can see that this all goes very quickly, and this control processes the information very fast to display it with the inside of my PowerApp. I can also scroll around inside of that particular PDF as well to take a look at it. I bet you've noticed the trash can icons I have in the Blobs Gallery here. They allow me to actually delete one of these files from Blobs Storage. For example, if I click on this trash can here, it's now going to delete PDF example2.pdf from Blobs Storage and refresh the list. I can indeed see that that PDF is no longer in my list and it is gone from Blobs Storage. The code that does that looks just like this. Again, the Azure Blob Storage container connector is used, and I call the delete file function, and I pass in the ID of this item.id. That correlates to the row inside of that gallery, and it's the ID you're looking at right here, what we're passing in to delete the file. After I delete the file, then I call clear collect and I recreate the blobs collection using the same code we saw before. Because the blobs gallery is bound to that collection, as soon as that collection is recreated, the new list appears and the old one that I deleted is now absent from the list. That wraps it up for PDFs. Now let's turn our attention and go take a look at what happens when we display images inside of a PowerApp. So I'm going to put it back into preview mode here, and now I'm going to select the images container. Notice that the PDF preview disappeared, all of the items in the blobs list are not there, and I have a new series of controls I've introduced right here. To show and hide all those different things, I used a couple different if statements. If I look here, inside of the upload image group, we can see that the uploads image group visibility is queuing off the containers gallery's selected items path. If that path contains images, then the visibility for this particular group of controls is true. That's why when I select PDFs like this, it disappears, because that path doesn't have images in it. But now when I go back to images, the path does contain that, and now I have my ability to upload pictures. So let's put a picture in using this control. First I click on this one, select a picture, and then hit open. Then I'll give the picture a name, and I will click upload. This uploads it to table storage. Can you believe how fast that was? It's really amazing how fast this connector works and how quick it gets into table storage and queries the new collection and displays it. Here we can see that I have the picture displayed in the gallery, and I've also displayed the picture outside of the gallery as well. Notice that the media type now contains image. We talked about this before. The visible property of this particular image control inside of my gallery is queuing off is image in the media type. Now we can see that image is in this media type, and therefore the picture is available. If we look at the another property here within inside the image control, the image property, this is how we actually display the item. Azure Blob Storage connector, get file content, pass in the ID right here of this particular item. And now it renders. For this image down here, I'm doing the exact same thing, except I'm not using this item because I'm outside of the gallery. I'm referencing the Blobs Gallery and saying, get the selected item's ID and pass it into that connector to render the image. So how did I upload the file? To upload the file, I use this control right here. You can add this to a PowerApp yourself. You'll go under Media here and click Add Picture. This will add in the picture and the button on top of it that allow you to actually select a picture in PowerApps. Then I added the text box and the upload button. If we take a closer look at the upload button, we can see the code here that actually puts it inside of Azure Blob Storage. Now we're using another call to the Azure Blob Storage connector. This time we're using create file. We have to give this connector a few different things. We have to tell it the folder path we'd like to put it in. We have to tell it the name of the file, and then we have to give it the file itself. So the containers gallery selected path is the path under the hood in this gallery that says the path for the images in this case. The file name input.txt is what I type into my text box down here. And the uploaded image, as you can see with the blue underline, is actually the name of the control where that image was actually uploaded when I selected it from this PowerApps control. So that's all you need to do to create the file. Then again, after I upload the file, I follow that same practice we did with the refresh button, as well as the onSelect event for the containers gallery. I recreate the blobs collection. I use the Azure Blob Storage connector list folder v2. I pass in the name of the currently selected container in the containers gallery, and then that recreates the blobs collection. That's why as soon as I'm done clicking upload and it uploads it in this line of code, once it rebuilds the blobs collection and it has the new value in it, my gallery up here automatically refreshes and displays it. The delete operation here is the exact same thing we saw before for the PDFs. It's the same exact icon with the same exact code. And as you can see, because it keys off ID, it's capable of deleting both the PDFs as well as the images, no matter which container they're coming from. I'd like to point out a couple things to keep in mind as you're working with pictures inside of Azure Blob Storage and a PowerApp. As you've seen, I've done some clever tricks here in my visibility properties to look in a path or a media type as I make things visible or not visible. In this case, I'm looking for image in the selected item inside of the Blobs Gallery's media type to display this picture down here. Remember, I'm also doing the same thing up here to affect this control's visibility. But what happens in the case that I go to upload a different picture? I have to get back to preview mode to do that. And I upload Obi's picture again, but this time I don't give it a file extension. The file has now been uploaded, but it doesn't appear. And as we know, the reason it doesn't appear is because the media type does not contain image. So this is something you'll want to be careful with your users to put validation around these type of text boxes where they name their image. If they don't put the file extension on it, the media type cannot be determined, and these types of checks to show the visibility or to interact with it in other ways may not work right. Another thing I'd like to point out regarding validation is to possibly check for duplicated file names. Now we can see that I gave this file name here of Obi without the extension. We can see its size is 163,204. But what if I change the picture here? I pick a different one, but I don't change the name, and then I upload it again. When the upload is finished, you'll notice that, well, I have the same metadata about this file, except now the file size has changed. And because I did not give it an extension, it didn't show up there as well. So you may want to also do checks to make sure that your different files that you put into your PowerApp have unique names, because this connector will overwrite them. Now you can see I've changed the name of the file and I can upload it again. Now that I've uploaded that file, it will be the exact same file as the one I uploaded before without the extension, but now that I have the JPEG extension on it, it correctly interprets it as the right image media type here, and it's displayed. So as I bounce from image to image, we can see the control is either hidden or it displays the appropriate image. I can also take it one step further here and upload another picture and show you that no matter what different layout your picture has, whether it's a square, a rectangle, or a vertically set picture here like in portrait mode, PowerApps is going to respect that when you upload it and display it appropriately. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you got a lot out of it. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel to keep up to date on all the latest PowerApp videos I create. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.